Hi, this is Andy with the We Are Big YouTube show. Believe it or not, this is episode 4. This episode, we are going to be looking at the fall position battles that'll most affect this season. We're going to look at the top 25 coaches poll that was released on Monday, and we're going to take a temperature test here on the coaches. Who's on the hot seat, who's safe, and there is one coach that really needs a good season this year. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, let's get started with the coaches top 25 poll that came out on Monday. You have 4 teams in the Big Ten ranked in the preseason poll. You have Michigan at number 2, Ohio State at number 4, Penn State at 7, and Wisconsin at 21. Just to give you, you probably seen it, but just to give you the top 10, Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Alabama 3, Ohio State 4, LSU 5, USC 6, Penn State 7, Florida State 8, Clemson 9, and Tennessee rounds out the top 10. So as we know, SEC, Big Ten are always going to dominate the rankings, and that's evident here. Now, if you add in the future members of next year, USC's at 6, Washington at 11, and Oregon at 15. So next year, when the Super Conference comes together, I mean, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams ranked in the top 15. That's some representation that the Big Ten hasn't had in a long time. 7 teams in the top 15. It's going to make for a crazy 2024, but as long as we're in 2023, Wisconsin does surprise me, being 21. I thought voters might go Iowa instead of Wisconsin, just because, Wisconsin's got Luke Fickell, new coach, new quarterback, new system, new everything at Wisconsin. So there's a lot more unknown with Wisconsin, I think, than say Iowa, who's got the same coach, same system, but they brought in a better quarterback with Cade McNamara, who has been proven to be a serviceable quarterback, which is what Iowa's been missing. So that's really the only surprise for me. You can make a case for Michigan at number 1, because Georgia does have, you graduating that much talent, and that much talent's going to the NFL. But Michigan has the same thing. Every year these teams are reloading. There's no more rebuilding. Michigan's not going to be rebuilding. Ohio State's not rebuilding. Georgia's not rebuilding. Alabama's not rebuilding. These teams are reloading, and with that, are always going to be the championship aspirations. Ohio State, I am surprised to see Ohio State behind Alabama. Just going off based off of last season, where Alabama kind of hit a speed bump, and now they have a quarterback controversy, or not controversy, a battle, where they don't have a proven quarterback. Now everybody that's in that system highly ranked, so I don't think talent's going to be an issue. But with that schedule and playing in the SEC, I think there's more questions about Alabama than Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State essentially has 3 games this year: Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan. Same could be said about Michigan, except they only have 2 games. They have Ohio State and Penn State. So I think in the AP poll that comes out this coming Monday, I think you could see Ohio State leapfrog Alabama. Penn State's 7. That's right where they should be. I think in that 6 to 9 range is probably what Penn State deserves, coming off that Rose Bowl last season. Other than that, I mean, the coaches poll is usually the least, merited one, because coaches, you're just going to put big names in there. Like you're looking, Texas A&M is ranked after the season at 25 that they had. TCU's way up at 16, and they don't look like the team that they were last year. Oklahoma's ranked, and they were pretty not good last year. So, with the coaches poll, you get a lot of names. Same with the AP poll. Preseason polls are, in the grand scheme of things, worthless. I mean, you look at any preseason poll and then look at the final poll. I mean, usually the top couple teams are going to be right there, but after that, the preseason polls are pretty much useless. If I were to give my opinion on the polls, I would say you don't even start the polls until week 4 or 5. That way you don't have that predetermined bias of, oh, this team was ranked 16 in the preseason and they just keep winning, so they keep going up, or they lost one game, so they dropped out. It's worthless to rank these teams in the preseason. I think if you gave it 4 or 6 weeks before you started ranking teams, you'd get a more accurate ranking, but that's never going to happen because fans, media, got to have something to talk about, and the polls is a great thing to talk about. That's all I have on the coaches poll. So now let's take a look at the position battles that will most affect this upcoming season in the Big Ten. All right, let's start looking at some of the position battles that are going to affect this 2023 season the most. I want to start at Penn State, where it's pretty much all of their special teams. In the return game, they are bringing back Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, but you probably want to preserve those guys. You don't want to put them in more danger than what they already are as your star running backs. Some names that have emerged for the return game roles at Penn State is transfer Trey Potts. He transferred over from Minnesota and will be the third string running back. Amari Evans, the speedster sophomore, for Penn State, a wide receiver. And then a couple freshmen's names have popped up recently. King Mack, Zion Tracy, and Elliott Washington have all popped up as possible returners there. Penn State will also be replacing their longtime kicker, Jake Pinniger. They have Sander Sajak and Alex Felkins, a transfer, that are being looked at for the kicker position. So that battle's probably going to come down. That's going to play out all season probably. It's not something that I don't think James Franklin's going to name a starter in that. It's going to be something you play by ear and just watch the games to see who wins that competition. The other competition that Penn State has is punter. They have Alex Bachetta back. They got transfer Riley Thompson, who was an all-conference last year for FAU. And they also bring back Gabe Nuoso. He's probably their kickoff specialist at this point, but it's all going to be under competition. So Penn State has a ton of question marks when it comes to special teams, which, you look, their offense is solid. It's all going to be based on Drew Aller there. Defense is probably a top 2, top 3 unit in the nation. And when you look at their special teams, it is all over the map. They don't have a single starter back for that, and it's a competition that'll probably play out throughout the season. And it's a big facet. You don't want to come down to a game against Michigan or Ohio State and punter shanked one or kicker missed a short field goal. So this is a big position battles to watch play out here at Penn State, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. All right, next let's look at Minnesota with PJ Fleck's team over there. One of the position battles that intrigues me over there is the running back position. Mo Ibrahim is no longer there, the legend there who set multiple records. Now you're looking at Sean Tyler, Darius Taylor, and Zach Evans for the starting running back position. Minnesota doesn't typically, with PJ Fleck, go to a running back by committee per se. So you're really going to look at somebody stepping up here and really taking over the position. I think right now the favorite is probably Sean Taylor, transfer from Western Michigan. He put up big numbers in the MAC over the last 4 seasons for Western Michigan. He's got the most experience, and that'll really help when it comes to the running back position over at Minnesota. Nothing against Darius Taylor or Zach Evans. I just think Tyler kind of has the step forward or the leg up in this competition. But it's really going to be interesting to see. I mean, they lost Trey Potts, who was expected to be a player in this. He transferred to Penn State. But yeah, I mean, for Minnesota, their offense is predicated on ball control. So, whoever wins this position is going to be very vital to this team's success, and will have a big season if they're really up to the task. So the running back position at Minnesota, I'm looking at Sean Tyler there to win this position battle at Minnesota. Okay, next let's jump over to Michigan State and their quarterback battle. With Peyton Thorne transferring over to Auburn, that's kind of left Michigan State in a predicament with unexperienced quarterbacks. The three quarterbacks that are vying for this position is Noah Kim, a redshirt sophomore, Caton Hauser, a redshirt freshman, and a true freshman, Sam Levitt. When it comes to this quarterback battle, like I said, there's not a whole lot of college experience here at all. It's going to go down to the first game. You might see multiple quarterbacks in against Western Michigan that first game of the season. The surprising factor in all this could be the true freshman, Sam Levitt. If Noah Kim or Caton Hauser doesn't stand out, I wouldn't be surprised to see the true freshman get some play and some run to see if he could be the quarterback. With Mel Tucker losing Peyton Thorne and top wide receiver Keon Coleman in the transfer portal, it really leaves Michigan State in a little bit of trouble heading into this season, especially at the quarterback position. If I had to take a guess right now, I would say Caton Hauser is probably going to win the position, but it's so hard to tell, especially this early into camp. A couple weeks away yet, but my guess is Caton Hauser for this position and Noah Kim and Sam Levitt getting the backups. But like I said, you're probably going to see two, maybe all three of these quarterbacks against Western Michigan as they gear up for that game against Washington in week 3, where will be their first real test. So I think that, this is going to determine Michigan State's season is how good of quarterback play they can get. They're expected to have a decent enough defensive line and linebackers to make some noise in the Big Ten this year. But if they don't get the quality quarterback play, we could really see another disappointing from the Michigan State Spartans and Mel Tucker. Now let's head nearby to Michigan, where they have a position battle of their own brewing. It's kind of for the second cornerback position, but not really. Mike Sanistril will be the nickel cornerback. That's where they want to keep him, is in the slot. So this will be the cornerback opposite of Will Johnson. The three people you're kind of looking at in this position battle are Josh Wallace, Murray Walker, and Jaden McBurrows. McBurrows is coming off of injuries, so not sure how much he's recovered or how much he'll play into this right away. The leader kind of in the clubhouse right now is Josh Wallace. He's a transfer from UMass, and this was kind of what he was brought in for, is with his experience in the college game. He was brought in for this position opposite of Will Johnson. Walker and Maureen Walker, he's interesting. He's raw, but he's got the length and size that you're looking for in a dominant corner in the Big Ten. It's a big deal because you look at the offenses in the Big Ten with what Wisconsin's going to bring with Luke Fickell, with the biggest competition, Ohio State. You're going to need three corners at least in order to compete in the Big Ten, especially with more and more teams starting to throw the ball in the Big Ten. You look at Penn State, they think they have a quarterback with an electric arm. And then always with the wide receivers Ohio State has, you have to be able to match up and you have to be able to take away some of their receiving capabilities there. So this is a big competition in the Big Ten and could ultimately be one of the reasons if Michigan wins or does not win the Big Ten could come down to this position and who wins it and how well they play. All right, last but not least, let's go to the biggest position battle, I think, in the Big Ten, which is the Ohio State quarterback job between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. Kyle McCord has the leg up in the competition because he was actually able to compete all throughout spring, where Devin Brown did have an injury to his hand. So Kyle McCord starts out with the advantage here in this competition. But Devin Brown's no slouch. Both these quarterbacks were highly recruited, highly rated. Neither one's going to back down from this competition. The one thing Kyle McCord has going for him is he has been in the system longer, and he did go to high school with Marvin Harrison Jr., so there's a little bit more chemistry there. But in the grand scheme of things, when you have a receiver of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s caliber, it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball as long as it's close. Uh, Devin Brown probably has more arm talent than Kyle McCord, but you have to put it all together to be the starting quarterback of Ohio State. This is the biggest position battle in the Big Ten because, I mean, what else would top it? You have Ohio State, new quarterback, uh, going against Michigan, who they've lost against the last 2 years, a Penn State team that's up and coming and looking to challenge for the Big Ten title. The quarterback position here at Ohio State will probably determine the conference. You have that pesky non-conference game at Notre Dame too earlier in the season. The margin for error for Ohio State is slimmer than it has been in the past seasons because of the schedule and having, 3 teams on that schedule that are all national title hopefuls. So with that being said, Ohio State quarterback position is my biggest quarterback battle for the Big Ten this fall. I think ultimately it goes to Kyle McCord, but if he struggles, Devin Brown will be right there, and we will have to see how it goes. Next, let's talk about the coaches and where they stand at their programs and see who's on the hot seat. The Big Ten had quite a lot of movement this offseason when it came to head coaches. We already have a position open at Northwestern that David Braun is currently interning at. So that job's open. We have 3 new coaches in the Big Ten, so they're going to be safe. Coaches get a couple years, so we don't have to worry about Matt Rule at Nebraska, Ryan Walters at Purdue, or Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. In the Big Ten, though, I think you only really have one coach right now that could survive a really disappointing season. That's probably Jim Harbaugh after taking Michigan to the playoffs the last 2 seasons and winning the Big Ten. I think he's probably the only coach right now in the Big Ten that if they lost 3 games somehow or 4 games, really wouldn't find himself on the hot seat. A couple other coaches that are, pretty safe, that could survive a somewhat disappointing season, I think, is Ohio State's Ryan Day. Even though it's going to get hot if he loses to Michigan again. And James Franklin at Penn State, I think he's built up enough cachet there at Penn State to where if they lost to Michigan and Ohio State again and went 10-2, I don't think he's going to find himself in any trouble there with his position. Other coaches that I feel are safe, Illinois, Brett Bielema, he's safe. After last season, kind of showed that the program is up and coming. Maryland seems very happy with Mike Locksley. I think they understand that they're in the Big Ten East and they're kind of waiting for the divisions to go away next season. So they have a little bit more chance to avoid, playing Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State every season. Greg Schiano at Rutgers. I think Rutgers knows what it has in Greg Schiano, a coach that actually wants to be at Rutgers and build that program back up. It's going to be a long road, but I think ultimately he's safe. I think PJ Fleck's safe, even though that little thing came out about the Fleck Bank and all that. Minnesota seems very happy with PJ Fleck, and I mean he's winning games there. He's always close to being in contention for the Big Ten West. Would they probably like to see him win the Big Ten West? Yes. Could he this year? Yeah, absolutely. But I think he's built a program up enough to where you're never really going to see Minnesota only go 6-6. I think they're going to be in that 8-9 win range every season, and therefore I think PJ Fleck is safe. That just leaves us 3 coaches here that I think are potentially on the hot seat. Let's start with, let's call it the least hottest seat, is probably Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. With that offense struggling year in and year out, I think the university and the fans especially are kind of getting tired of the same old, especially with the son being the offensive coordinator and his reluctancy to move off of him. I think if Iowa, who, is projected to finish high up in the Big Ten West, if they really struggle like they did last season and say they only win 6 or 7 games, I could see a change in Iowa. I could see Kirk Ferentz gone and them start anew. Next, we have Mel Tucker at Michigan State. I know he has the big contract, but he was, he's preached that, there's going to be Big Ten titles, and this is the place for him, and he's going to build this program up. And after last season, it looks like they lost their way. With Mel Tucker, he's very outspoken about certain things, and if it comes down to it, and Michigan State misses a bowl game again, I think you could ultimately see Mel Tucker gone at Michigan State. Michigan State wants to compete. It's all about roster construction and building up talent, and something going on if you're losing your starting quarterback and your top wide receiver heading into a season. So I think it speaks to a little bit of the culture there. And if Michigan State struggles, which they very well could this season, I could see Michigan State moving on from Mel Tucker. I think the one coach that is truly on the hot seat is probably Tom Allen of Indiana. Um, it's a tough school to win at. I mean, they're in the same predicament as Maryland, where you're in the Big Ten East, you're in the toughest division in college football. Um, but after that COVID season kind of gave a glimpse, whether it be fluky or not, that Indiana could win games, even though it came, like I said, with extreme circumstances. Um, Indiana did finish that season very well. And if you look at their roster, it's one of the least talented in the Big Ten. And you don't know if Tom Allen's vibe or culture is starting to wear some guys thin, and you might lose the team if the team continues to lose. I think Tom Allen's a great coach, but at the end, it's all about results. And Indiana's only had that one really good year. And every year past, that's been kind of a struggle to even get to a bowl game. So I think the hottest seat in the Big Ten is Tom Allen, followed by Mel Tucker and Kirk Ferentz, who I think need to have decent seasons in order to keep their jobs and stay off the hot seat. Well, that'll do it here for episode 4 of the We Are Big YouTube show. Keep the lookout for a daily little 2 to 5 minute video coming out every day as we lead up to the start of the season. And always like, subscribe, review, and let's build this community. Thanks for watching. Bye.